everyone. I'm Dr. Rebeca Chow.
And I'm Pastor Bill Gepford.
And we're talking about disgust.
When I think about disgust, a couple weeks ago, I'm at the baseball game. I'm at Kauffman Stadium, and it's great. We're watching the Royals win. They won, and it was awesome, great game. But I'm leaning back in my chair, and I feel something wet. And I turn, and somebody had brought their dog to the park. It was actually bark at the park. You know, people can bring their dogs, but I didn't know that at the time. I just know that there was this dog tongue that went into my ear, and the immediate just gross reaction. Like animals are beautiful, and God made all creatures, but that was one of just shock and kind of. I was not ready for that, and I didn't really want that, and that feeling of disgust. Tell us what's going on inside of us when we feel moments like that.
Well, you know what? Disgust is actually one of the feelings that creates a reaction in our body. It's actually one of the few feelings that creates a reaction. As you're describing this, I can feel my ear. And then we have this immediate reaction and disgust in our stomach, in our gut. So it's interesting because disgust allows us to reject things that can be harmful. See, that's why sometimes when we are really excited about something and we smell it and it doesn't smell like it's something that needs to be going into our body, we was like, imagine if we didn't have disgust, we might be eating something that could be the end of us.
Right.
So disgust does have a purpose, and it's the only feeling that connects our brain immediately with a body reaction compared to others that just have different meanings to it.
I love that you brought up the brain to the kind of the food side of things. When I think about this from a spiritual side, I think, good. This looks like avoiding things that we don't need in our body. So in the Old Testament, we have all these laws about what to wear and but also what to eat, and we call them the kosher laws or the food laws or the cleanliness laws. And I have a hard time reading these sometimes because I read them and I'm like, well, I love bacon and I love pulled pork and yet those are things that are on the don't eat list. But I also think from another side, I can understand how, 3,000 years ago, to a group of people in kind of the late Bronze Age who don't have, instant read thermometers, they don't have controlled ovens, that pork can be dangerous. I mean, there's a disgust level of some of the diseases, at least, that can be carried in certain animals. And so that disgust thing keeps us safe. I think the same thing is true for practices or activities that I'm grateful we have that emotional reaction, that kind of gut level, visceral reaction of, no, this is something that I don't want in me. So on the good side, I think disgust can keep us safe. I think it can go too bad. I think it can become a problem when it comes into something of shame, when it becomes disgust, especially towards a person, that you did this and now I see you as defined by this. And so now I'm disgusted by you, not by your actions, but by you. And we see far too often that shame becomes something that's too tied to religion. So tell us the consequences of disgust in our psyche.
So when it comes to disgust in extreme or when it has gone a little bit out of whack, it brings us to rigidity. See, disgust is one of those feelings that can push us into all or nothing thinking. And once we get into those black and white way of thinking, it becomes really hard because our world becomes very rigid. So it's not so much about, is this right or wrong? It's so much about, I need to live into this specific square or into this specific limit. And what happens with that is we lose opportunities to maybe this person did do something that was not the best. And maybe that wasn't the best version of themselves. But imagine how many other things this person can bring into our life that we lose because we have rigid thinking. All or nothing thinking really is not the best because it takes us away from moments of connection, but it also takes us away from moments that joy could be experienced.
Right. I love that idea of rigidity and all or nothing. I think about this story in the Bible in John chapter 8, I think, when Jesus is teaching and he's interrupted by these religious leaders who throw a woman at his feet. And she was caught in the middle of adultery. And somehow these religious leaders, they didn't seem to catch the guy. They only caught the woman, and there's this clear sense that you get that they have shame for her, and maybe not for the guy, or maybe the shame is especially heavy on her. And there's a lot of kind of cultural and patriarchal issues kind of here tied into this idea of they are disgusted in her. And it's a really kind of horrible moment as these male religious leaders define her by her shame and by this worst moment. And what I think, one of the things I think we're supposed to see from that is that their shame is misplaced. And she's caught in an affair, and I think all of us rightfully feel disgusted at that might destroy marriages, and like I think we're called to not do that, and yet they've defined her with the shame and the disgust, and Jesus sees it differently. He says, "Go and sin no more," but he also tells her, like he restores her. He doesn't define her by her shame. He's not disgusted in her, but instead he lifts her up and he brings her back. And I think we're called to see the same. That we're called to love people, and not to equate people with disgust or shame or define them by their own worst moments or misplaced actions. Yeah, tell us kind of what are some mental health practices that play in here.
So I think a good practice will be, let's take a moment of pause and then find why are you having this reaction of disgust. Every single feeling, including disgust, has a purpose. So what value is this feeling bringing into your daily experience? What is your body trying to communicate to you? See, feeling disgust is important because it might keep us away from something. It might also show us that maybe we're into the rigid side. It's more about pausing and listening to see what value does this feeling bring into this interaction I am having.
I love that. And I think from a spiritual perspective, 100% agreed, to look at to try and understand, to deeply use our minds and to search the scriptures. What is this telling me is wrong? But then also the other side is, and who am I called to see this person as? Especially with people. I'm not as worried if you're disgusted by Brussels sprouts or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, that's not a spiritual concern for me. But I am concerned, do you see somebody else and immediately feel disgust? And I think in that case, I just want to invite you to go look at, say, Genesis 1 and Genesis 2, that humans are made in God's image and that God puts the image of God in them. And that even if you might completely disagree with something somebody's done, even if their actions are abhorrent, that the image of God still resides. And that we're called not to lump shame on people. We're called not to judge, but instead to see the image of God in all of God's creations.
So this week, find the image of God. Pause and see what value disgust is bringing in, but don't let it run your whole entire day.
See you.
Bye.